So I'm doing this show because one of my viewers, Deborah, sent me a message and she was very upset that I'm promoting this message that we create our own life, that our thoughts create our own reality, which is really law of attraction. And I certainly understand where Deborah is coming from, and I have compassion for her position and for her space because she's been harmed by somebody else. And I absolutely understand that, because when you're coming from a space where you're harmed by somebody else, that's a pretty traumatic state, right? And that to say that, you created this experience in your life, that's very, very hard to swallow. And I certainly understand that because I had an abusive father who abused me, my siblings, and my mother. He abused us physically and emotionally. So I understand what it feels like to have someone, especially a loved one, a father whom you're absolutely supposed to trust, break that trust by beating, physically and verbally abusing us, right? So I understand that trauma, and it's very difficult to swallow that I attracted my father into my experience, that I created that in my life, right? That's very difficult to swallow, that somebody who is supposed to protect me and love me, I attracted into my experience. So as I was delving into this law of attraction and trying to take responsibility for all of the experiences in my life, I realized that I wasn't taking responsibility to place blame, shame, or guilt on myself. I was taking responsibility to empower my life. So in my Ho'oponopono video, I talk about the different levels of consciousness in our mind. It's really one mind, but we have different levels of consciousness. So right now, I'm operating in the conscious level. Right now, I am consciously aware that I am showing you this chart and doing this video. I am conscious of it. But in our subconscious mind, there is so much more that's happening in here. I mean, Dr. Hugh Len, who's the teacher of Ho'oponopono, says, in our subconscious mind, we have trillions of information, of memories. We have so much in here that we don't even want to know what it is. It's just so much stuff. So we are really operating, I would say 90% of the time, at a subconscious level. For example, our bodies. Our body is absolutely operating on a subconscious level because we do not give our heart instruction, or our liver, or our kidneys, or our brain, or our nervous system. We do not give it instructions about what to do, right? The body just runs. It's running subconsciously. It's running subconsciously. So most of the experiences in life is really happening at a very subconscious level. And so that subconscious level, we're broadcasting this vibrational energetic frequency out into the universe subconsciously. We're constantly broadcasting this energetic frequency out into the universe, and the universe just matches it in kind. The universe is just mirroring what we broadcast. That's what it is. That's what law of attraction is really about. And so when we attract people that we do not desire, like an angry person, somebody who's going to do us harm, like my father, for example, I truly believe that I attracted him into my life. When we attract that person, it's because we are sharing things subconsciously. Not consciously, but consciously, you would never want to attract somebody that's going to harm you. You would never want to intentionally want to attract somebody who's going to harm you. I never consciously or intentionally want a father who's going to abuse me verbally and physically. But what's happening is the reason why we're drawing that person is because we're sharing. We're sharing data in the subconscious level. So I had a very angry father. Well, I'm sharing anger with him. That's why he came into my experience. And that's what law of attraction is really about. And Ho'oponopono, it's about sharing the same data subconsciously. That's why that person came into my experience. Now, I find this information very empowering. Because if I release that data, if I release that anger, then now I am no longer attracting those angry people in my life. And that's exactly what Dr. Hugh Len did. In my Ho'oponopono video, I talk about Dr. Hugh Len. He healed criminals and rapists by releasing the data that he shared with those criminals and rapists. He released it from himself, and the divine released it from him and the people around him. And that's how he healed the criminals and rapists, because he released all of those negative traumatic information, data in himself. He was able to release it with the help of the divine, and the divine then released it from him and the criminals and rapists around him. Now, that's empowering information that if I could release these negative emotions or negative traumatic data that do not serve me, then now I am not attracting those people in my life. Because the opposite scenario, which is that random people come into my life, so this angry person came into my life randomly, that scenario gives you no control over your life, right? Because if people are just coming in randomly, you can't have control over that. There's no control. So knowing that you could release this information out into the universe and no longer attract those people gives you absolute empowerment over our lives. So when you start to really embrace this work, that you really create the experiences in your life, you start to shift your story. So when we feel disempowered, when we feel we have no control over our lives, we're really telling story number one, which is I blame myself. I blame myself for that experience. I am ashamed. I am guilty. I have no control over undesired things in my life. And this is all disempowering. This is a story that disempowers us. However, when you really understand that you start to create your own reality through the virtue of your thoughts, through the virtue of your consciousness, and know that you could shift your own consciousness and energy, now you're telling story number two, which is all about empowerment. So the story number one is I am aware of my inner state. Now it's really important to be aware of your inner state because you have to know what you're giving off, what you're broadcasting to the universe. You have to be aware of that, right? Because if you're not aware of that, then how can you make any change? You have to be aware of what you are broadcasting energetically and vibrationally out to the universe. So I am aware of my inner state. Then I can change because I have control over my thoughts and energy. You're the only one that has full control over your thoughts and energy, right? And that's empowering because as you shift your thoughts, you're shifting your energy, and now you're broadcasting different vibrational energetic frequencies out into the universe. And therefore, you're getting back different experiences. And you have absolute full control over your energy. You have no control over anybody's energy outside of yourself. But you don't need to have control over that to have absolute power. You just need to have absolute control over your own energy, and you do. I am a powerful, deliberate creator of my life. Now, when you have absolute control over your energy, you are a powerful, deliberate creator of your life. Because as you're shifting your energy and broadcasting a new frequency, now you're returning different experiences to yourself. So you become a shield to negative people. You become a shield to negative experiences in your life. You become a shield, automatic shield, when you shift your energy. And so story number two is really empowering yourself, whereas story number one is disempowering. And when you realize that and accept and embrace that you have absolute control over your energy, then you have control over the experiences that come into your life. So Louise Hay, one of my spiritual icon teachers, whom I absolutely love, she helped me and millions of people around the world transform our lives. Her book, How to Heal Your Life, and her company, Hay House Publishing, is all about this premise that your thoughts create your reality. And Louise Hay is such an amazing example of how she used this concept of how to change your thoughts to change your life. And she really flipped her own life around. Because Louise Hay, when she was a little girl, she was beaten and then raped by her stepfather. So she was first beaten, and then I think when she became a teenager, her stepfather started to rape her. So she came from a very traumatic childhood. And so in her adult life, she was introduced to this message that you can heal your life by changing your thoughts. And so she wrote a book, You Can Heal Your Life, which says that all you have to do is really change your thoughts, that you have to love yourself, that you have to consciously love yourself, and then you will start to heal your life. And so she wrote this book in like 1976 or 1978 when everybody probably thought at the time she was crazy. But now everybody really respects and loves Louise Hay, and her company, Hay House, is so big in the self-development world that your thoughts create your life is empowering. And so in her own life, later in life, she got cancer, and she healed her cancer through her thoughts, through changing the way she thinks. So she is a prime example of how she had this traumatic experience of rape and abuse, physical and verbal abuse. And she took this premise that your thoughts could change your life. She took it to shift her energy. And now she is, really adored by millions of people around the world to this day. And she passed away last year, but her legacy of her work and teachings still live to this day. And so Louise Hay is a wonderful example of how when you start to shift your thoughts, you start to broadcast a different vibrational energetic frequency, and now you're empowering your life. So when we take responsibility for our life, we're not placing blame or guilt or shame on ourselves. We're doing it to empower our life, to know that we can shift our thoughts and therefore shift our energy and therefore shift the experiences that come into our life. So we're taking responsibility to empower ourselves. So if you have any stories or experiences that you would like to share, because your comments and feedback really help me and my community at large, leave a comment below. And if you like this video, please make sure to share it and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to visit all of my spiritual and holistic living tips, just go to my website at yinandyangliving.com. Thank you. Namaste.